Hey guys, let's talk about reaching out when you don't have anyone else to talk to. When you don't have anyone out there that can understand something like gender dysphoria, sometimes you need to find an outlet. Trans Lifeline is an excellent resource for that. If you're dealing with gender dysphoria or gender identity, you're exploring yourself in that way, or you're trans, maybe you have already started transitioning, or you are a trans female or male and you're facing obstacles but you have no one to reach out to. Trans Lifeline is a good source for that. I have talked to them off and on now, probably since maybe around February or March of last year in 2024, even before I ever started therapy in the summer. Trans Lifeline was the outlet that I really was going to try to start getting some form of therapy for myself, to be able to speak, because every time you call them, you're speaking to an actual trans male or female. And I've spoke to both. Each time I've spoken to both when I've called at different times. And it can help so much because they understand a lot of the things you need to talk about and how you feel. And you know, a lot of times we can feel like we're going crazy with gender dysphoria. We can feel like the world is crashing down and nobody is going to understand. It can make you feel very isolated. And for me, that's how it is, really, because while I've had a friend or two along the way that I could mention this to, they're not people that could understand it. Now there's nothing they can do about that. If they're not going through it, how are they going to understand it? So you can tell somebody that's willing to listen, that's not going through it, but they're open-minded and willing to listen, and that can help a little bit. But you can still only go so far with that. So then you need to talk to people that are like-minded. And I would say, if you can get a good therapist that's also understands and is open to talking about gender identity. I mean, you don't want to go to a therapist that's closed off to gender identity or knows absolutely nothing about dysphoria, gender dysphoria, or what it's like to feel of the other gender. You want to find a therapist that's able to explore that with you. And I've been fortunate in that. I had one therapist for a year that was absolutely amazing with being able to connect with me. And really, with her, I was on a trans path, but she left in June. Her partner got transferred somewhere and she had to leave, and that left me kind of in a kind of a spot of not knowing what was going to happen. Before I lost her, I lost a opportunity to go to a group where I would have met other trans people. And there might have been some gay people or bisexuals or other people in that group as well. But I was having car issues. My work at the adult store I was at the time, I couldn't get off for it. There were these obstacles. I couldn't go. And then shortly after, I lost this fantastic therapist as well. So these things occurred, and once she was gone, I kind of started thinking, okay, maybe I just need to try to integrate this. And I've spoke about it before. I think a lot of my dysphoria is past life related, but gender dysphoria, I think it's a different thing and a different animal for everyone that goes through it. We share commonalities, I have seen, with what we experience, but I think it can originate at different parts of our life, different points in our life. It can originate at different degrees of severity throughout our lives, and it can originate from a different place, whether it's, like I said, for me, I think it's mostly past life related, but it still doesn't take away the pain I go through or the emotional toil or emotional toll it takes on me. And it takes quite a bit of an emotional toll on me quite often. Some days it's milder, but it's always in the background. And sometimes I want to deny that, but really it's always in the background. So even though I sometimes think I may end up being able to integrate it, I think there's always going to be femininity to a certain level blended with me, with who I am in this biological male body. And if I can't integrate it, eventually I will transition. I mean, I know if I'm not successful and it keeps on just battering me, one day I'll probably will have to do more about it. But for any of you that feel isolated and you feel alone and you have nobody to talk to that understands this, and you haven't taken any steps, I would say look up translifeline.org, and there's also resources on that page, and call them and start there. And then depending on the state you live in, or maybe you're watching this from somewhere else in the world, find resources in your area. Now for the United States, I can speak for, it's one of the things I deal with is I live in a conservative state. Now I'm not of any political party, I'm independent, but I will say from my experience, I feel like this is harder in a conservative state because if you're not, they won't provide funding to help you. If you don't have a lot of money to invest in transition, or you don't have a lot of money to invest in the resources you may need to deal with this, they don't really want to back it up too much. I was just fortunate I found a more left-leaning place here in Tennessee that does the best they can with what funding they now get. They were getting more funding before this from the federal government before this administration came in January, but now they've lost a lot of that. Where it used to be you could get HRT to little cost through where I go to therapy. That funding was stopped. That was the other thing that happened. I lost my therapist, and before I lost her, we found out I really was very close to starting HRT. I was going to start before my birthday in August. But then we found out that was taken away in the spring. And I remember I cried over it. I was very sad. And then I couldn't go to the group, and then she left. And I felt like, wow, I lost those things, and I just kind of put them in the background and said, okay, I'm just going to really try to integrate this. It was a month before I saw another therapist. And that therapist, once I started seeing her after a few sessions, realized we were not a good fit. She didn't seem to ask many questions and didn't really seem to connect on the dysphoria and things like that. There just wasn't much I was getting from it. But luckily I found another therapist now in the same place, and she connects to me pretty well. I don't know that she'll ever connect to me like the first one, Sabine. I mean, she was really special, and I think sometimes we just meet people like that in our lives. There are just some people I think we have a soul connection with, and we're meant to be around them a certain amount of time, and they're meant to help us progress. And she did in a lot of ways. I mean, she drug me out of a hole of depression. I still deal with it, but she drug me out of a very deep hole I was in at the time and got me to where I'm more functional now. I still have hard time, and I've tried to deny that recently. I explained that in my last video. I have to really check myself sometimes, and because working on authenticity the last 5 years has been a challenge because of coming into self-awareness. If you really want to know about that journey, you can go back 2 videos. It's a long video though. It's an hour long, but it really chronicles what brought me to self-awareness from the end of 2019 to now. Some of it is of an esoteric nature, so you may not completely resonate with it, but it is my journey. It is my story. It is what sent me down a path of self-exploration, a path of acknowledging who I really am over a long span of time, which I think happens for a lot of people when they become self-aware of themselves. But becoming self-aware, I will say too, doesn't mean that you are healed. It does not mean you've become some kind of perfect person or guru or anything. It just means that you understand that you have been, for myself, it made me understand I had been living almost 100% through my ego or through fake facades and masks. And now I try to live from an authentic space and own who I am and own how I feel. And that's what I try to get on here and talk about. But sometimes I lose track of that and I have to check myself. So in any case, that first therapist, she was very special, and she brought me through a lot of things and helped me progress in a lot of ways. But when I lost her, lost the chance at the HRT at that time where I was really motivated to go toward it, and then I lost that group therapy, not being able to do that, it just changed my trajectory, and my perception changed at that time. Now I'm at a point where I'm with a therapist that's has a lot of empathy. She does connect with me quite a bit from what I can see out of a few sessions. Time will tell, but I feel comfortable again now exploring, going back into talking more and more about my gender dysphoria, and realizing that right now I'm at a point where I still may be able to integrate it, but I also am really understanding I may have to transition. Some people may ask by watching my older videos why I don't wear makeup, or I haven't worn makeup in a while and things like that. Well, there's a couple of reasons probably. I was exploring a lot during that time. I was moving closer to HRT during that time. But lately, since I've been trying to integrate it, I just haven't. It takes any woman knows, it takes time to put on makeup. I'm not wearing it in my regular life right now. I was starting to back then. I was really getting into wearing at least foundation every day. But one thing, I think it's bad on my skin. I feel like my skin does better without it. So that's one thing too. My skin has always had trouble with being irritated by most creams and things, and I've even in the past had allergic reactions that caused me headaches and stuff from certain creams or moisturizers or things. Makeup, of course, can be abrasive, and more abrasive to some than others, and so that's one reason. But also there could be a little bit of me feeling like an imposter. You know, with gender dysphoria, there's imposter syndrome. too, we go through with, we realize we'll look in the mirror, especially when we have heightened dysphoria. And I know others have went through this too, where you have this heightened dysphoria and you know that you're not a passable woman. When you have that heightened dysphoria, you might want to, at that moment, feel like a passable woman. You may have visions of that and you're looking for it in the mirror. And you know that's not the case. And even if you put on makeup, you're gonna, for me, it's like one of these situations where I'll think, even if I put on the makeup and whatever, I'm gonna feel like an imposter because I'm not on HRT. And I feel like I have some things that work in my favor, like my height, my size, and I feel like it wouldn't take a lot for HRT to move a little bit around on me. And I get excited about that when I think about if I transitioned, I think I that would work out good for me. And then but even then I don't know that I'd wear a lot of makeup because of the way it can irritate my skin. But I probably would wear lashes, and I probably would do my brows and maybe lipstick. I would do more subtle things. I would experiment. The other thing is too, I get frustrated because, as many of you go through this too, if you decide to transition, there can be cost involved. And if you're not able to get HRT, like it was taken from my clinic and funding, then it can cost a lot to get it through a third party. And a lot of those third parties want you to pay for a membership, and they want you to also pay, you got to pay a pretty big monthly fee. You got to have your lab testing, and you got to pay a pretty big monthly fee to get it every month. You can do your doctor visits through these third parties online, and they'll set it up to you go out and get your lab test or whatever, but you're still, you might pay $200 or $300 a month and a monthly fee to the third party for being a member. And if you don't have a lot of money or resources, like me, I live as a minimalist too, because I don't want to have a ton of debt. I don't want to be a slave to a workplace. And I also get burned out if I'm working too many hours in any place. It's a combination of disdain for work slavery, but also the burnout of it on my nervous system and on my dealing with depression. Even though I'm not as bad as I was, like I said, 1.5 years ago, but I have bouts of it. And when those bouts come over, when those spells come over me of depression, they don't last as long now, but they can be harsh. So I'm isolated a lot because of that. It helps me to stay grounded more, being alone more. I'm not saying you should be alone all of the time, but I'm just saying for me, this is just how my life has been, and I tend to do better with a lot of alone time. So in any case, what I was saying, in the United States, in a conservative state, if you're going through this, I feel like it's harder, especially right now. If you're in a more left-leaning state, like in the United States, that would be like, say, Colorado or the Northwest or California, or maybe somewhere up in the Northeast. Most of these states, if not all of them, have some sort of funding. I would say they have more resources, and they're more open to helping. So if you're in places like that, then the states, you could be in a place where the state is funding, and they just don't worry about the federal government doing it. They take care of it and help you out, which can be, that's amazing. If you're going through this, that can be amazing. If you have little money, then you're going to get the things you need. If you decide you need to transition. What people that don't go through gender dysphoria don't understand is that we don't ask for it. It's not something, if you truly are going through gender dysphoria, it's not something you control or you ask for. I wouldn't wish it on anybody in the world. It's very debilitating. It's very disruptive. It's disruptive to your daily life because of the way it's like a yo-yo for some of us. Some people just have it really severe. Some people have it on a milder basis, but then there's people like me who have it on a yo-yo where it's up and down. And that can be extremely troubling and disruptive, and mixing it in with depression or any other type of mental thing going on can be very hard. And on days where I have bouts with depression, that sometimes it can get in my mind, why am I here and why should I be here? That still happens sometimes, just not near as often, but that's how frustrating this whole thing can be. If you're in another country, I'm sure it just depends on the country too. The only one I would think of offhand is because I watch a couple of YouTubers from this particular country I have, and that would be the UK. One of my favorite YouTubers I like to watch, maybe some of you know of this YouTuber, is Finnster. I really like Finnster. I have a bit of a crush, I would say, too. Finster's really pretty. And if any of you ever watched her before her transition, it's amazing. She's younger, though. She's, I want to say, around 27 and has been on HRT 3 years. Finnster became popular on Twitch and then got a YouTube channel, and I started watching her when she was kind of just joking around, and back when she was still and joking around and dressing like a girl and said it was out of I think it was out of a bed or something like that, but it kept going on, and eventually down the road she just never stopped dressing. And come to find out later, she had been on HRT, and now, yeah, she's beautiful. And but I was thinking of Finnster in the UK because over there, Finnster talks about they also have it. It's harder for people with little means too, because their healthcare system, you get on a waiting list for that sort of thing, and you can be there forever and ever. And Finnster has started backing up a program. I think it's called, I could be wrong because I just saw this the other day, I think it's called Alice, the program is, I think. You could look that up though. Finnster posted a video recently on her YouTube. You can go look that up, but she's backing a program there for people to get subsidized or help in the UK, so they don't have to go, they don't have to deal with the national health system. I think that's why it's called the NHS there. So there's other places where there's trouble with this too. But I just wanted to get on here and talk more in depth about this and just know you're not alone. I know it can be hard sometimes, and we can often feel like we're alone, but you're not. You never are. Besides me, of course, there's a lot of big channels on here that talk about this stuff too. And just remember, take that first step though. If you don't have a friend in your life, if you don't have a trans person you know in your life, which I don't personally, I've met a few when I worked in the adult store, but I never have had a friendship with one personally, or anyone else personally with gender dysphoria. So if you're in a position I'm in, my advice is to first reach out to Trans Lifeline and try in your area to find a therapist that that knows at least something about gender dysphoria and is open to working with you on that. And I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.